Right, so let's get started. I'm going to share the screen. I prepped it so that I can't get it wrong. And we're going to do what we did last time and watch the video. I haven't pre-watched this one, so if there's something that doesn't apply to us, as is always the case, it's a very they're doing a great job at trying to make it apply, but then last week of course we had those bits that didn't apply to us, like talking about the video and stuff, and obviously I know that Wendy's made her own videos. Not quite sure why I did two different ones, Wendy, but that's
no, I don't know. I think I'll redo it.
Yeah, well, I still haven't watched them. I meant to do that and I still haven't done that, but I need to make mine. My stuff is all here ready to go, so you could make a video, but as I said, you just need something to be ready to go in with, and where things that they say don't apply to our particular case, there will be a workaround. So if you make a note of it, and we will come back to it at the end and deal with any of the queries that arise. So here we go. Oh, it's gone. Very annoying. Right, here we go. So now you're seeing that target thing, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here we go.
Level 3, Danny, is what we call the development level.
Yes, and this is my favourite level.
Level 3 contacts are those people in your life that you encounter on a regular basis, but your relationship with them isn't so close that you would deem them to be level 2 or level 1 contacts. They're typically people that life puts in your way. So they could be people such as local shopkeepers and business owners in places that you regularly visit, perhaps some parents from school who you cross paths with on a daily basis, neighbours you see as you go about your daily business, people at the gym, basically people you may see regularly and whom you acknowledge on your daily routines.
Now, the reason I say that this is my favourite level is that the very nature of level 3 affords you time. For example, if one morning I've decided to approach one of the other parents at the school gate when I drop off my kids, and when I get there I see that they're talking to someone who maybe I'm not too keen on, or maybe they're chatting to the head teacher, then I can hold off my approach and try again tomorrow. Because these people are put in my way regularly, I have the luxury of being able to choose my best time to approach them, as long as I don't wait too long, because if I did, I eventually run the risk of seeing them at our next opportunity evening on the arm of someone who did find the right time to approach them.
Now, your first goal with these level 3 prospects is to begin to develop your relationship with them in a natural, unforced way. So we recommend to start with small talk to break the ice. You'll usually find that it doesn't take long before you uncover some common interests. Then it's a case of simply continuing your conversation each time your paths cross in the future. The goal, over what may become an extended period of time in some cases, is to embark on a data collection exercise. Over time, you'll get to know these people more personally, and as the conversation progresses and they become more comfortable with you, they'll feel happy disclosing to you their hopes and fears about their lives, or as we call them, their heartburns and hot buttons. Hot buttons are the things they aspire to or they want more of in life. Heartburns are the things they don't like and want to change and move away from. Once we've discovered this information, we can use it as leverage at a natural stage in our relationship to invite them to take a look at our business. And this is because our network marketing businesses are very often the perfect vehicle for helping them address these heartburns and hot buttons. After all, more money and more time would solve most problems for most people, wouldn't you agree? One technique to move the conversation towards talking about your business is to use reciprocal questioning. The magic of reciprocal questioning is that if you ask someone a question about themselves, they're highly likely to answer the question and then reciprocate by asking you the same or similar question in return. So for example, at its most basic level, if you were to ask someone how they are, they'll usually reply and then also ask how you are too.
And we see this in other situations too, Paul. Think about this. When someone sends you an email or text message that they start with, "I hope you're well," or "How are you?" we always respond by answering their concerns. But then also we feel obliged to ask them how they are too. There's almost a social pressure that makes us reciprocate and ask them how they are, as we don't want to come across as being impolite or uncaring.
Likewise, if you were to ask someone where they're going on holiday this year, once they've answered, because of this unspoken obligation and this social pressure, they're highly likely to ask you where you're going too. With this in mind, it stands to reason then, doesn't it, that one of the easiest ways to get someone to ask us about our business is to firstly inquire as to what they do for a living. Often, once they've told us about their job or career, they're pre-programmed to ask us what we do in return. And this is where we take their heartburn or hot button, which we've identified in previous conversations, and combine it with a technique that we picked up from network marketing legend Tom Big Al Schreiter. This clever technique is called the "you know how most people" approach. Perhaps a good way to illustrate this, Danny, would be for you to share with us one of your real-life Level 3 examples.
Yes, my daughter swims competitively, so she trains 4 or 5 times each week. As a result, as you can imagine, we cross paths with other parents constantly, and naturally, friendships develop. Now, I became quite friendly with one of the other dads. We began to sit together and chat regularly, and I soon thought that he was a great prospect. However, instead of suddenly prospecting him out of the blue and running the risk of putting him off, I quickly identified him as a perfect Level 3 prospect. So, with that in mind, I began to ask him questions about his life. Now, don't worry about coming across as nosy or intrusive when doing this. I promise you, everyone's absolute #1 favourite subject in the whole world is themselves. And in the vast majority of cases, as long as you don't get too personal and cross obvious boundaries, people will be all too eager to tell you all about their life. After all, as I've just said, it's their favourite subject. So, I asked him where he worked. He told me that he worked for a large national company. So I inquired as to how long he'd worked there, to which he said that he joined the company straight from school, some 25 years earlier. Now, as he seemed willing to talk about this subject, his favourite subject, remember, I thought I'd pursue it further and suggested to him that he must really love his job. After all, he'd never chosen to leave in 25 years. And this is where he grimaced and revealed his first heartburn to me. He told me that he wasn't particularly fond of his work, but in the current economic climate, he was fortunate to have such a secure job, and he had a family, a mortgage, and other bills to pay. Now, he was really opening up to me now, so I dug deeper still by suggesting that as he'd been there for so long, he must now surely hold a very high position within the business. To which he dropped the bombshell that there was actually little opportunity for promotion within the company, and that he was, in fact, doing pretty much the same job he'd done when he joined the business as a school leaver some 25 years previously. So, there we had it. I had his heartburns, the things that ideally he would like to get away from. He was in a job that he didn't like, he'd had few career opportunities, but he was stuck because, like many people, he had a family and he had bills to pay. Now, the old me might have instantly prospected him with my business, but as I'd already identified him as a Level 3 or development level prospect, as Paul described it earlier, and I knew that I'd be in his company regularly, I decided to keep my powder dry for the time being, and I tucked his heartburns away in my memory bank and decided to play it a little more patiently. It wasn't long before he reciprocated and asked me what I did for a living, as, of course, social pressure dictates. And it was at this point that, as planned, I took his heartburn and I combined it with Tom Schreiter's very effective "you know how most people" technique that Paul referred to a few moments ago. "Gary," I said, which was a cracking start, Paul, because Gary was his name. If I'd called him Brenda or Janice at this stage, I might have blown it right from the off. But no, I nailed it and I got off to an absolute flyer.
Well done, Danny. Great start.
Cheers, mate. I said, "Gary, you know how most people, like you, find themselves stuck in a dead-end job with few career prospects, but they can't leave, even if they wish to, because they've got families to feed and bills to pay?" Now, at this point, Gary was nodding, and I recall him saying something like, "Yes, exactly like me." "Well," I continued, "what I do is I show people how, from their own kitchen table, they can start their own business that they can dedicate just a few hours per week to, which over the course of time will grow and allow them to leave the job they feel trapped in, or at least cut their hours drastically. His response? Well, how do you do that? My reply? Let me show you. And out came a presentation from a bag. You see, in this example, Gary wasn't spooked or unnerved by me prospecting him so suddenly. Subconsciously, he believed that he was controlling the conversation. He'd asked me about my job, and he was blissfully unaware that my reply was based on the heartburn that I'd extracted from him during our conversation earlier.
Level 3 is a very relaxed and forgiving level. It affords you time. Time to develop relationships and time to allow suitable opportunities to arise to introduce your business naturally. If the situation doesn't lead to you naturally speaking to them about your business this time, then there's always the next time. Just concentrate on building relationships with people where you speak to each other about your lives, and I can promise you that they will eventually and naturally unveil their heartburns and hot buttons to you. Now, it's worth unpacking further a couple of things Danny's just said. Firstly, he said, don't worry about coming across as nosy or intrusive. People love to talk about themselves. Many years ago, on a flight to New York, I believe, a researcher was instructed to strike up conversation with the person they were seated next to, but instead of making it a natural two-way conversation, the researcher was told to keep the conversation explicitly about the other person and their life. The researcher was asked to simply listen intently, but also keep the conversation going, resisting the temptation to make the conversation in any way about themselves. When the flight landed, the unsuspecting passenger who'd been engaged in conversation was taken to one side and asked for their opinion about the person they were seated next to, the researcher. Their response was that they thought the researcher was one of the most interesting people they'd ever met, despite actually learning nothing about them during the entire conversation. So, asking questions and allowing someone to talk about themselves while simply listening and showing a sincere interest is a proven way to quickly build rapport and increase someone's liking of you. And when it comes to making buying decisions, again, the science says that we prefer to say yes to those that we like, which means that by listening intently whilst allowing someone to talk freely about themselves, you're increasing the chances of them taking a shine to you and thinking of you favourably, and in turn, agreeing to take a look at your opportunity when you ask them. Secondly, Danny said once he uncovered Gary's heartburns, the old me would have instantly prospected him with my business. Whether we're aware of it or not, we're always broadcasting things about ourselves. We're sending messages which others receive and interpret in their own way, and this helps them quickly form opinions about us. The most obvious way we broadcast is in what we say and how we behave. Now, when it comes to our businesses, the messages we're broadcasting through our words and behaviours is crucial. In most cases, our prospects' only frame of reference for how you do what we do is in what they see us doing. The late great network marketing legend Jim Rohn often said, "To attract attractive people, we must be attractive." So with that in mind, it would be prudent to regularly take a step back and reflect on our words and behaviours and what we might be broadcasting, because if what our prospects see us doing isn't attractive to them, they simply won't join. For example, a very innocent yet common error, especially with new team members, is for our only topic of conversation with others to be about our direct sales business. From your potential prospect's point of view, they're probably thinking to themselves, if I got involved in that business from what I see Paul doing, it looks like I have to spend my free time endlessly badgering people into joining, and I seemingly won't have anything else to talk about in my life. After all, it's all he ever seems to talk about. I really don't want to have to pester my friends or perfect strangers. Now, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Of course, we must talk about our businesses, but we must also ensure that we're presenting a well-rounded and varied life outside of business too, so that we don't unwittingly put others off.
Totally, Paul. It reminds me of a story I heard about a lady who used to be in my own team. For her own reasons, she left and she joined another network that promoted weight loss products. Apparently, she'd gone to the city with her friends for a hen party, and At the end of the night, they decided that they would go for a curry. So they found a local Indian restaurant and went inside and sat in the waiting area until a table became vacant, as they'd not booked in advance. When a table became free, all of the girls stood up to go into the dining area of the restaurant. All apart from our hero in this story, Joanne. No, Joanne wasn't having a curry with her friends. Instead, she decided to sit in the waiting area and reach down into her handbag for some weight loss bar of some kind to chew on instead. Now, which part of what Joanne did there is attractive to her friends? Now, I'm assuming that her friends will have been on her list as potential business consultants. So how many of them, as they were getting stuck into their starters, do you think were looking at Joanne and thinking to themselves, wow, I'm going to talk to Joanne about that business. It looks fantastic. Just maybe, Joanne could have had her meal with her friends and chosen a healthier option to show that the business doesn't completely take over her life. But she wasn't done yet. No, not content with not joining her friends for a meal, she took it to another level. Instead of sitting quietly, heating a health bar and generally keeping herself to herself, she decided to prospect the other people, perfect strangers who were also waiting for a table to become vacant. Again, I ask you, how many of her friends were looking at her thinking that they wanted to be doing that at 11 p.m. on a Saturday evening when out supposedly having a good time? Paul, there's almost a paradox in network marketing in that if you refuse to talk about your business, you're not going to build a business. But if all you ever talk about is your business, then you're not going to build a business either. There's certainly a middle ground where you can talk about your business, but you're not boring people or making what we do look unattractive to outside observers. And remember, a big selling point of what we do is that we describe it as a part-time business. If it appears to outsiders that you never switch off, your claim to be able to work a few hours here and there loses all credibility.
So Danny, using the you know how most people technique, if I was one of the parents at swimming and I asked you what you did for a living and over a previous conversation you'd learned that I was working long hours and didn't see much of my kids, how would you use that heartburn?
I could say something along the lines of, Paul, do you know how most people, like yourself, work really hard to put food on the table for their families, but as a result see much less of the kids than they'd like?
I do, yeah.
Well, what I do is I show them how, from their own kitchen table, they can start their own business that they can dedicate just a few hours per week to, which, over the course of time, will grow and allow them to cut their hours and see more of the kids.
How'd you do that?
Let me show you.
Okay, what if I asked you what you did for a living and over our previous conversations you'd learned that my heartburn was that I had pension worries?
I could say, Paul, do you know how most people, like yourself, don't really have a pension to speak of and they worry about how they're going to survive in the retirement years?
I certainly do, yeah.
Well, what I do is I show people how, from their own kitchen table, they can start their own business that they can dedicate just a few hours per week to, which, over the course of time, will grow and soon be worth many more times the state pension.
How'd you do that?
Let me show you.
Okay. What if I asked you what you did for a living and in a previous conversation you'd learned that my hot button was that I had a burning desire to travel the world?
I could say, well, Paul, what I do is I show people with hopes and ambitions like yourself how they can, from their own kitchen table, build a business that they can dedicate just a few hours per week to, which will allow them to have the time and money freedom to make those dreams a reality.
How'd you do that then?
Let me show you.
Okay. What if I asked you what you did for a living and over our previous conversations you'd learned that I'm a young mum on maternity leave and maybe had some concerns about going back into the workplace because I fear it might have moved on in my absence and I didn't really want to leave my child with a carer?
I could say, well, Pauline, do you know how most mothers who, like yourself, take time out of the workplace on maternity leave and sometimes they don't really want to return to work immediately afterwards because they fear the business might have moved on and they would rather spend much more time with the child?
I certainly do, yeah.
Well, what I do is I show them how, from their own kitchen table, I hope you're getting this now, They can start their own business that they can dedicate just a few hours per week to, which, over the course of time, will grow and allow them to leave the job or cut their hours at least so that they can spend more time with their child in the formative years.
How'd you do that?
Let me show you. You see, this is a very effective level 3 technique, but you must understand the need to earn the right to use it, because if you've not done your groundwork beforehand by engaging them in conversation and uncovering their heartburns and hot buttons, then you're guessing at their why. You're guessing at the reason why your business would be good for them, and it's very likely that you'll guess wrong. For example, Paul, do you know how most people work so hard to put food on the table that they don't get to see their kids as often as they'd like?
Do they? Have you met my kids?
No, but if I could show you a way how, from your own kitchen table, you could start a business that would mean you could see much more of them, would you be interested in taking a look?
Danny, the way they're behaving at the moment, I'd be much more interested in looking at something that would mean I'd see a little bit less of them. Obviously, we're having a bit of fun here, but hopefully we've made the point that doing the necessary groundwork, as Danny says, is absolutely crucial for this approach to be effective.
Reciprocal questioning is a great technique, but it's quite reactive, as you're waiting for your prospect to ask you about what you do. You could always be more proactive in your approach and guide the conversation yourself. For example, imagine myself and Paul had recently had a conversation where they'd let it be known to me that his son really wanted to go to Disney, but Paul simply couldn't afford it just yet. I could maybe approach Paul a day later and say something along the lines of, Paul, you know how when we were speaking yesterday, you mentioned how Sam really wanted to go to Disney, but money's a little tight for you at the moment? Were you serious?
Deadly serious. We're strapped for cash at the moment, but he won't stop going on about it.
Really? So, how is saving up for that going on at the moment?
Saving? There's nothing to save. We spend every penny that we earn.
So, what are the chances of you getting there in the next year or so while Sam is still young enough to want to go?
Slim to none at the minute. It's simply not going to happen.
So, as a dad who wants to give his kids everything they dream of in life, how does that make you feel?
It's very upsetting, to be honest, but there's no way we could get the kind of money together that it would take to get us there.
So, out of interest, how much money do you think you'd need to save to make this dream of Sam's a reality, to give him the holiday of a lifetime?
To do it properly, between £5,000 and £6,000, I would imagine.
Really?
Yeah, something like that. You know, you'd want to make the most of a trip like that, wouldn't you?
Totally. Of course you would. And I can see how much this would mean to you.
Yeah, it'd mean everything to me as a dad.
Paul, if I could show you a way of earning the cost of that holiday, working part-time with me, without affecting your current job, that would enable you to take Sam to Disney next year, would you be open to taking a look at it?
Next year? Really? I'd certainly look at it. What is it?
When have you got half an hour or so that I can show you what it's all about?
Well, I've got half an hour now.
Great, put the coffee on.
Or maybe you can guide the conversation from the start and uncover people's heartburns and hot buttons more directly. What about all this doom and gloom in the news about recession and unemployment, Danny? Has your company given you any indication about how it might be affected?
Yes, mate. Rumour has it only this week that there might be half of us made redundant before too long.
Oh no, that's not good. What about your job specifically?
Well, I've had no assurances that I'm safe. I just have to hope that I'm in the lucky 50% that they keep on.
So, what's your plan?
Plan? I don't really have one, although I've upped my spending on the lottery from a fiver to a tenner, so I've doubled my chances there.
Okay, but if you don't win the lottery, what then?
Well, I've no idea, Paul. I've worked here for 10 years. I'm not really that skilled to do anything else.
Would you look for something else or retrain?
I'd probably have to look for something else, I suppose, although exactly what, I've no idea, and I don't fancy going back to school to learn another trade at my age. To be honest, Paul, I've got no plan whatsoever. I'm trying not to think about it.
That's understandable. Listen, if I could show you a way of earning an additional income, working alongside me part-time, so if the worst was to happen and you were made redundant, You would at least have a financial safety net already in place in the short term. Would you give me 20 minutes of your time to at least take a look?
I'd have a look, of course, if you feel that it's something I could do. What is it?
Great. When have you got 20 minutes so I can show you what it's all about?
I've got 20 minutes now.
Great, let's grab a couple of coffees. Now it's your turn. Who do you see regularly because of life circumstances? People who you can now start to develop a better relationship with. The neighbour you're merely on nodding terms with. Stop and chat and find out the spouse's name and where they plan to go on holiday next year. The other parent at school who always seems to get parked next to you, but your relationship has never developed beyond a daily smile. Find out where it is that she rushes off to each day. The main activity on level 3, the development level, is simply speaking to people and then letting them speak. As we said earlier, it's simply a data collection exercise in which you're listening out for what they're looking to escape from and what they're looking to achieve more of in their life, so that you can use those heartburns and hot buttons as leverage to increase the chances of you sharing your business opportunity with them.
Okay. That was shorter than I thought it was going to be, actually. So, Stacey, are you still with us? Can you hear better when I'm talking?
A little bit.
Okay. I partway through that, I realised that there was another way I could increase the volume, which was through Zoom, but Stacey's saying it didn't really help for her. But obviously most people can hear, so I'm not quite sure. I don't think there's anything else I can do. I've got my own PC on the Macs and I've now got the Zoom setting on the Mac. So I don't think there's anything else I can do, I'm afraid. Might be worth checking back later to see if it comes out better on the recording, or try watching on a different device, maybe not a phone. Right, so I think the development level's really interesting, and I think it applies very much to us. I hope you can all see. Anybody want to say one thing where they think it very much applies to us, or one thing where you don't think it does apply? Can you think of a for instance? Go on, Wendy, you've always got something to say. Karen, you can say.
That was my point. That was what I was going to say. That this is where I fall down.
Okay, all right. So it's moving on. So you're all right on level 1 and level 2. It's moving more onto strangers that's harder for you.
Well, it's the people that you kind of know, isn't it? My trouble is that I am too wordy and I word vomit over people. So it's trying to remember sometimes with these level 3 people.
Yeah.
I've underlined and I've highlighted penned, you know, let them talk.
Yeah, and Wendy, you know, we've had this conversation before. You know I'm the exact same as you, but you know the old adage about we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I'm not being rude because I'm the exact same as you. I'm terrible. I tend to rabbit. I feel like I've got so much to share and I'm so excited about it myself that I want everybody else to know how amazing it is. But actually, what we need to know is, you know, what do you need? It's about them. And actually, sometimes it's finding out whether it is for them, because maybe it isn't. And if you push somebody into doing something, you know, if you try and make the job fit them rather than find out whether they fit the job, they could end up coming to you eventually saying, I don't know why you made me do this, because this really wasn't me at all. So, you know, when we talk about handling objections, we obviously look at, you know, if somebody doesn't want to do it because they can't justify the kit, or they, you know, can't drive, or they've got 32 children, or whatever it is, those things are making it possible for them, making it accessible for them. They're not changing the whole scenario to fit them. So I think we do have to listen to find out. I actually, those of you who've been on my training courses before know that I do this, I teach this anyway, but one of the things to spark up a conversation is, it's a really natural thing to say, what do you do? And somebody will say to you, oh, I'm a teacher. And then generally speaking, unless they're quite rude and self-involved, and you know what, if they are rude and self-involved, as you've just heard from Danny and Paul, actually quite good, because you can just keep them going. But if they're a normal, fairly polite person, they'll go, what about you? And at that point, I always say, most of you will probably have another job. Has everybody else here got another job? And what I want you to do is not say, yeah, hopefully, is not say what your other job is. So let's say I'm going to use Beth because I know what her other job is. She's a music teacher. So if you start a conversation with a potential joiner and you say to them, what do you do? And they go, I'm a nurse. And if she goes back with, well, I'm a music teacher. Okay, that's really helpful because you're not trying to recruit into your music teaching business. So going with, I run my own business with Body Shop at Home. Most people have heard of the Body Shop. A good proportion of people, particularly if they like Body Shop products, are going to go, oh, what's that then? Because generally speaking, people haven't heard of it. They know what it is. They know what the Body Shop is, but they haven't heard of the at home bit. What's that? So you can then tell them that they've invited you. But even then, be aware that this is supposed to be about them. So turn it back. What you can find out. By the way, he now says about hot buttons and heartburns. Now, when I did this course in person with them, heartburns, do you remember, Beth? It was all about hot buttons. Heartburns is a new thing. But
I know, I wrote that down because I was like, oh, well, that's new.
Yeah, because I haven't pre-watched this one, as I said, so I didn't know that. So yeah, the hot buttons we've known about since the first time I went on the 5 levels. So what is it they want? So, you know, the trip to Disney or whatever. What is it they don't want? And I loved the funny scenario about, you know, I can make it so you can spend more time with your kids. And they're going, yeah, I don't want to spend time with my kids. Obviously, hopefully that's not the case. But that's where that conversation comes in. So what is it they do want? They want to, let's take a scenario that fits us. Very, very often, it's a new mum. So somebody who is going on maternity leave. This job is perfect for her. But you don't want to slam it into her that this job is perfect. Why you think this job is perfect? You want her to discover. It's like when you're talking to your kids or your team. Those of you who've got a team, and you want them to come up with the idea, because then when they own the idea, they're much more predisposed to make it work. And sometimes it's like, no, it's my idea. I want to come up with it. No, you don't. You want them to come up with it because now they're excited about it. And you can go, oh my God, the number of times over the last 6 years that I've had people come up to me with an idea and I go, oh, that's amazing. I love that idea. It's probably not always, by the way, sometimes people come up with something really startling, but generally speaking, it's something I've done before. But you go, wow, that's a really good idea. And also I might jump in here and say, I've usually forgotten. So it's like, quite often is I'm like, oh yeah, that is a really good idea. I remember I used to do that. So say to them, that's a really good idea. How can we make that work? Or what can we do to use that? That's really good. So they now feel good about it. They're much more likely to run with it. And this goes for leads as well. So, you know, if you're saying to them, oh, well, this job, you know, you can work as many hours as you want and whenever you want. Would that work for you? And they're going to, well, yeah, it would actually, because I'm just about to have a baby. Oh, okay. Well, this job also, you know, you're working from home. So, you know, is that something that will work for you? I can't think of any more scenarios, but you know what? So when they're talking to you about what they want, their hot buttons, that's when you can tailor that conversation to fit. Does that make sense? And it's called the development level, and he keeps saying about the fact that this one allows for a lot of time, having a flush. He said it affords you time and you can develop it over a long time. Now, sometimes that will be the case, bear with, where I bet you there are people that you've seen at the school gate, or you've seen at, you know, your kids' activities that you've never really developed that relationship with, and now you can, because, you know, in addition to potentially getting a new joiner or a new customer or a new host, you also might make a new friend, or you might instead make a new friend. But it does also work for our online ones, and when it comes to those, it can be a bit faster. I'm not going to lie, it can. You don't have to develop this over weeks. If you're having an online conversation, somebody's answered one of your ads, let's say, or you've come across somebody online, you know, through a hobby group that you joined or something, who might be interested, you can definitely do it faster on social media. There's no doubt about it. Would you agree, Beth? It doesn't need to take, you know, if it was somebody at the kids' activities, you'd probably do what Danny and Rich just suggested and develop that relationship first, find out a bit about them, talk to them over the next few weeks. But if you're doing it on social media, you don't need to wait weeks. I would say don't rush it. Don't jump straight in with your opportunity. In fact, I would say when you're having those early conversations, don't talk too much about Body Shop. Don't forget, you're finding out about them. What is it they want? What is it they do? What are their hot buttons? What are their hot burns? And you may not go into it in huge depth with a stranger, but the person at your kids' activity, the person at the school gate, you could definitely do that, couldn't you? So you can tailor it both ways. What other notes did I make? Data collection, yeah, so not necessarily, you know, their address and phone number, although that would be great, phone number, but just storing that information. And if you're somebody like me, what you're going to then need to do is make a note. If you don't have a day book is a really good idea. So I use at the moment I've got an A5, but it's not working. I'm going to go back to an A4 pad, and at the top of each day I write the date, and then everything that happens in that day I write down. Not everything that happens, but notes, reminders, stuff like that, people I've spoken to. And that might be a good place. If you've got a leads book and you consider them a lead, then put them in your leads book. But keep a note of those things, because otherwise when you meet that mum at the school gate again in 2 weeks, if you're me, you'll have the same conversation over again because it's completely gone. So worth making some sort of aid memoir. What else? Reciprocal questioning we sort of covered. So I said about, you know, oh, what do you do? I'm a nurse. Oh, I do body shop at home. And if they don't ask you, find a way to stick it in there, but don't labour the point. Again, you don't want to make this conversation all about body shop at the first hurdle. You don't want to be a body shop bore. What he said about the lady with the diet pills, that resonated with me, because I've got friends who've done that exact thing, who've become diet consultants, and they probably look at me, who could do with losing like 8 stone, and think, oh, she's a really hot prospect. Do you know what? I'm not, because I'm so not in the right place. So actually, if I'm sitting with you and you're drinking a shake while I want to eat a great big fat ice cream, probably going to go out with somebody else next time. So, you know, you've got to tailor it to the person you're with. So, you know, if they like body shop products, then make sure you're surrounded with body shop products anyway. You should always have, yes, we talked about what should be in your bag and stuff, didn't we? But don't chuck it in their face, but just drip feed it, keep that going.
One of the things I wrote down, actually,
yeah,
I noticed on my profile was body shop, body shop, body shop, body shop. And what I did at the weekend, I went for a dog walk, and I put a photograph up with me and my dog, my eldest and her fiance. So many people commented.
Yeah,
you know, I went out for dinner, loads of comments, just picture of my food, my dinner,
yeah.
you know, and
the modern way.
And it's like, I know that people are actually seeing my post. They're just like, that's too much body shop.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're all in danger of doing that. Find somebody whose social media you really rate. Laura McVinney is brilliant. Her social media is amazing. Yeah, so if you don't friend request her if you're not already friends, just go and follow. Most of us have public profiles. Just go and follow us. And don't bother with me, by the way, I'm rubbish. But Laura's is great. She uses her child a lot, not in a nasty way, but you know, really good pictures of James and what they're up to and stuff. And because you know that most of the people who are joining her team are mums with young kids. So it appeals that they can see how this job works around them. I don't use my family because, and I should, but mum wouldn't even mind. Jude would, but mum wouldn't even mind. But I guess we don't do anything that interesting. But actually, neither does Laura with Jane. She's just really good at spinning it. So have a look. Go and follow a few of the people who are really successful at that sort of thing and see what they do, and take some tips from them. I would say that, you know, some of the things need to be slightly body shop. So, you know, you can throw the odd product in there. You can ask a question. Shall I wear this lip color or that lip color because my husband's taking me out for Valentine's? See that gone, but you know what I mean. You can chuck that in. It's definitely worth mentioning body shop once in a while, because otherwise people won't know what you do. But try not to make it all body shop related, and a little bit aspirational life, I guess. So if you go out to dinner, if you spend time with friends, you know, if you've tarted yourself up, maybe put up a before and after. Wow, look what, you know, I scrubbed up well tonight. I don't know, that sort of thing. But yes, you don't want it to be all body shop, because it makes you look like a bore. Yeah. What else? Anybody else written anything down?
Different to what we've said.
Yeah. I like the you know how most people. That's really good. I think we could all use that a bit more. You know how most people, you know, have to work 9 to 5. You know how most people don't get to try stuff that they'd really like to. I don't know. Can anybody think of some more answer, endings to that sentence? You know how most people have to work for somebody else.
I was just going to say that one. Yeah, hate their job.
Hate their job. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Work to live instead of living to work.
Yeah.
Yes. Feel that one right now.
An awful lot of people do, if not hate it, are bored with it, or can't be bothered, or don't want to have to dress up in the morning, or don't want to leave their kids, or don't want to leave their dogs, whatever it is, that yeah, I think we could, and again, you're not going to know which, how most people is going to work until you've found out a bit about the person you're speaking to. So I think the next thing is, it'd be nice, since we've got a bit of extra time tonight, so quite like I want you to make a note that you need to make a list of your level 3s. Now, your level 3s are going to be people you know a bit. So we're going to come on to strangers next week. So at level 1, if you remember, was your close friends and family. Level 2 was the people that you're happy to ask a favour of. If you remember favour, I think you were all on last week, weren't you? So last week was favour and feedback. This week obviously is development, so it's people you know less well. So I want you to make a note to make your level 3 list, but I'd also quite like, since we've got a bit of time, to find out how you're doing with your level 1s and 2s now. So
I was brave enough to talk to my sister, and that was
you
really
never have
brave.
before.
No, because she's not interested in Body Shop.
Okay.
She uses a skincare range called The Ordinary, and she is very set in it. It's got retinol and everything. I got a whole set for Christmas, and it was just, I know you're probably not interested, but I've been doing this for a while. I just wondered if it's something, because I know she hates her job. She got forced out of a job that she loves, working for Canine Partners, where she could take a dog in every day. And she's in a job that she hates. So it's just like, I've been doing Body Shop for a while, and I know that you don't really use the products, but how, have you thought about doing this just as a little bit extra? And she was like, well, thank you for asking me. She said, I'll give you a straight up no, but how's it going? How you doing? All right, and whatever. Yeah. So I've been doing this 1.5 years, and I've never asked my sister, never spoken to her.
Well done, because sometimes that's the hardest.
Yeah, I knew she'd say no, but it was.
Did you go on to say, I thought you'd say that? Do you know anybody else who might say yes?
I did. Yeah. And she works from home at the moment, so she's not actually. But
even if so this The Ordinary that she uses, is that just skincare, or does she buy her shampoo from them too?
No, it's just skincare, but she's very set in her ways, and there's nothing that's going to.
Mine is the same. I've never approached my sister, because my sister would be like, no, she doesn't even. I can't even give her Body Shop for her birthday.
We do sometimes. We have video chats where we do our skincare together, and
that's lovely.
So it's like, oh, well, what are you using there? And I actually wrote down what she used, and I bought it for her for Christmas. I didn't give her Body Shop, bought it for her for Christmas, but I knew she'd say no.
But maybe she would host a party because she's your sister, and because she wouldn't mind some shower gels and shampoos.
She won't, because it's all too people-y out there. She's very like COVID.
Sounds like she'd get on like a house on fire with my sister.
Probably. we should hook them up.
And do you know what? Well done you. So Who else? Dina, what about you? Level 1s, 2s.
Or I don't know, not brave enough to ask anybody that I know really well. I think I'll probably be better with strangers.
And do you know what? That is quite normal. Some people will only speak to we call it your warm list, and others will only speak to a cold list. And then you get the amazing one who is quite happy, comfortable to speak to either. But I think I'm the same as you. I would rather talk to a stranger.
Yeah, I think so.
However, when we get to level 5, I don't want to sort of preempt anything, but level 5 is the chicken list, and we have we have some techniques for that. So don't worry, we'll come to that one.
Okay.
So keep those. That's why we say when we're doing level 1s and 2s, write everybody on your list. Don't eliminate anybody on the basis that you'll never be able to speak to them. Just put them on your list. I'm not saying call them, just have them on your list, because we will get to a point where we may be able to do something about them. Don't forget the compliment as well. So the old, you know what we said on level 1 week, we said, I know you're not, I know, like what Wendy just said, I know this, you're going to say no because you do, you know, you love another brand, or because you're really successful in your current, you love another brand is not a compliment. So you'd have to think of a compliment to go with it. But, you know, you give a compliment and then you say, you know, I'm expecting a no from you, but I would be remiss if I didn't say it to you. I've got to at least say it. And then, you know what, one person in 50 just might totally surprise you and go, actually, it is something I might consider. So if you don't try, you don't know. But for the time being, just have them on your list. I would never want to push you that far out of your comfort zone because you might run a mile. What about level 2s then?
Well, yeah, it's like I've mentioned it to a couple of the girls at school, but because there's only a few of us standing at the gate, I'm a bit conscious that I'm talking about it too much, that I don't want to be a body shop bore. So I try and, with my page, I try and, like, with my profile, try and, like, sort of, it's not all selling, like, you know, so I'm trying to put, like, quotes in there and, you know, other stuff.
So those girls at the school gate, could you maybe get them back for a coffee after drop off one morning and say, so like when the new scents come out, because scents you cannot do, you have to smell them. You cannot. But when those come out, the choice range, which is quite imminent, just saying, quite imminent. Yeah, when that comes out and you get some, hopefully, you could get, in fact, didn't I send you a couple of samples? Because you were one of the top sellers.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I sent the top 5 got samples of everything I had, which I know they were all very scrabbily done, but you got some samples. Yeah, so you could get some people back over and say, look, we've got the choice coming out, we've got the wellness range coming out. Really like to do like a review thing, and I just need some people. I think we were talking about it in something else. What were we talking about it in? And saying I just need some people to take photos of, and see if they'll come back for a coffee and a bacon sandwich. I'd go anywhere for a bacon sandwich myself. Do you know, it's worth a try. It's like Marie Bennett, who's very, very shy and really quite insular and doesn't do it. That's what she used to do. She used to get the people from the school gate back to her house, and they're still her core customer base. Get them back to try. So anytime she had something new, she wouldn't ask them to buy anything. They would just come back and they'd try stuff. I don't think she did the photos thing, but that would definitely be a useful development. So yeah, take some photos. And I mean, you're nodding, but is that something you would be able to do?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You could use the invitations that were in your joiner pack.
That's a good idea.
Just ask around, say, you know, what day after the school run does everybody want to come back for a bacon sandwich, and I've got some things I'd love you all to smell, and then write yourself a little like survey thing that you're gonna throw away afterwards, but it makes it feel like, you know, there's a purpose for it. So you get, when the Spa of the World range came out, which was in my very early days, I did exactly this. I got everybody in my old house, I got everybody around the kitchen table for all the spa things, and I'd written this very official looking survey. Would you recommend this? Do you like the texture? Which one's your favorite smell? And all this, and they had to rate everything, and they ticked boxes and stuff, and then I kept those for a few weeks and then put them in the recycling. But the point was, I got them there to sit around the table and try the products. And they may not buy anything, that's fine, but you've sown those seeds. You probably have a nice time and a bacon sandwich. So.
I suppose they feel like they're doing you a favour as well, don't they?
Precisely, favour and feedback.
Yes.
It's the essence of favour. So that's your level 2, is favour and feedback.
Yeah.
So there you go, as an activity for you. So next week, I'll ask you how you got on, whether you got that sorted.
Okay. Yeah.
Going to make you accountable. What about you, Robin? What could you do? Level 1s and 2s, how have you been getting on? What else could you do?
I mean, to be fair, last week was a total write-off for me mentally. So last week I kind of forgotten about it. But there's one person on my level 1 list who has been the main reason why I've been in Region Wing It's top 50 recently. Because she's going to hate me for saying this, but she's from Africa. So all our products, she thought, I don't know if they're going to work on me. I'm completely black-skinned. And she's bought them from me, like the camo bar. And she goes, oh shit, it actually works.
Yeah.
I'm like, it really does. So she had the idea of us going live together on my group to do review everything. We haven't done it yet because weekends have just been a mess for me. I've just been so unproductive of anything. Okay. But it is on our plans to do it, so she can do it. And my other best friend who's on my list, we did a complete skincare. And I was at his for my birthday in September. So, oh my God, these products are amazing. I was like, yes, they are really good.
Yeah,
and,
man.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
you just need a couple of trans people now, and you've got the whole gamut.
Yeah. My best friend, who's the one who's completely black, I was in London with her for Christmas for Winter Wonderland, and I took all my skincare stuff because can we just do skincare night? I was like, of course.
Oh yeah.
She said to me, because all my stuff I used, she goes, I want everything you've got. I'm like, okay, I can try.
Fantastic.
So when the liquid peels were on sale, when liquid peels were on offer,
yeah,
you got one.
Oh, she sounds like a keeper.
She is. I'm unofficially the aunt to her daughter.
Okay. So has she ever hosted a party? Could you?
Also on our list to do. She kind of lives isolated from not many people. So
okay, right.
It's on our list to do.
Okay. So when I said about level 1s and 2s, you mentioned her. Are you saying that because you would like to recruit her at some point?
I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But I know she'll be amazing at it because she's got a big gob on her.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's quite handy.
Amazing. I reckon she could do it.
Yeah.
But I think she needs to be in the right mental place.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And you wouldn't want to recruit her and then lose her as a customer, and she never does it. So it is that fine balance. Usually a recruit is worth more to you than a customer, but not if they end up not doing it and then they just leave altogether.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't want to push anybody. What about you, Karen? How are you getting on with 1s and 2s?
Well, you know, I'm not recruiting.
Yeah. That's true. But it's not just about recruiting, it's about sales and hosts as well.
Yeah. Well, my mum lives on the Isle of Wight, so don't see her all that often. When I started, I did say to her, you know, I'm doing this, sent her a link to the book and all this sort of thing. She was like, oh, lovely, yes, okay, and nothing ever came of it. And she came over, was it last weekend? Something like that, the weekend before, for my daughter was in a show, just before she went down with COVID. And while she was there, I sort of said, oh, you know, I think she bought a moringa something or other. And I said, oh, I just happen to have these other things. Do you want to have a little look? And, oh, here's a book for you to take home with you. She'd got a hard copy. Yeah. I went out in the afternoon, I think, came back in the evening, and she'd got a whole bloody list of about 90 quid worth of stuff to buy. So I flogged her. I had to order about 2 things in out of a list of about a dozen things. It was all stuff I had in my box already. So I clawed back some of my overspending in the past. And so that worked quite well. And then
and I was actually going to say before you said it, you know, personally I'd always want a hard copy, and a lot of people still like an actual catalogue to leaf through and, you know, put post-it notes on the pages and stuff, and that's me. I think it's also slightly a generational thing, but yeah.
And I definitely find that with most of my customer group at the moment are my number 2 people who I asked a favour of. You know, I was saying when I kept going on about doing my practice parties back in September, October time, I probably swept most of my number 2 list for that sort of thing.
Okay. But if they had a party in September, October, they could probably have another one now.
No, none of them got to have a party. They all came to my parties.
Right.
So I'm planning to do another one when the wellness stuff comes out and say who wants to come around and see that stuff.
So don't forget, sometimes it's worth saying to somebody who's said no to party. And again, it's a bit like when you're recruiting. So you go to them and go, I know that you won't be able to send a party because you told me in the past. I'm not going to ask you. But I just wondered, would you let me do a product testing at your place for some of your friends?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of
party
people
by another name.
there's a couple of people who were interested in parties, but they're still on this self-isolating thing. And we were going to do one in November, but it went on too late, and she was sort of saying, well, you know, I'll do it in the spring when we can open the windows again. But I really can't have people around at the moment without opening the doors and windows.
And do you know what? We just have to be understanding with that, because lots of people still feel that way.
Yeah. But I find I'm doing a lot on my, I'll do a lot of talking about Body Shop and mix that in with personal stuff on my group.
Yeah.
But I can't work out how to put Body Shop on my main profile.
Okay.
So my main profile, people almost wouldn't know I do it.
Yeah. See, I do put posts up, and they include stuff I've done to do with Body Shop, but not actual selling person stuff. But the most successful, well, I think I've only ever been live on my profile twice, and one of them was about the community fair trade hemp mint. I don't know why I'm showing you my hand, because it goes on your hand. And it was really well received. I only sold a couple of them, but it was really well received, and I got messages from other RMs and lots of people saying, wow, that was amazing. Really. And the reason I was able to do it is because CFT is my passion. So it was easier for me to, it was like almost like I'm hiding behind it. So, you know, I can go and do a live on my profile if I'm talking about CFT, but I couldn't go on live on my profile and talk about anything else, about the job or anything. I couldn't.
Accidentally went live on my profile.
Where did you think you were in your group?
No, accidentally. I knew I was going live on my profile, but I was like, oh, well, I've come live in the wrong place. I thought I was in my group. Oh, well, seeing as I'm here anyway. And then you can invite a lot more people when you're on your profile.
And what did you talk about?
Oh, I was just doing skincare, just taking my makeup off randomly.
So I'd have freaked out and deleted it immediately.
I did it on purpose. I did it on purpose. I pretended it was an accident. It wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was on purpose. Just one thing I was going to say, having trouble getting parties. I've got one in a pub at the end of this month.
Well done.
Yeah, where I go and do open mic as well. The landlady was like, oh my God, your skin's looking amazing. I was like, it's new foundation, darling. It's new foundation. I was like, took a while to colour match. And she's like, would you colour match me? I was like, hell yeah. And she said, well, let me know and we'll do a party at the pub. Because she's very, very, very fair.
That's fantastic. Now, don't forget, when you go to that, what are you going there to get?
Parties and recruits.
Yeah. The sales is academic.
Sales will happen.
When people fill in their form and they put on their, you know, they want this, this and this, make sure you PPP it, even if it's just rough in your head. So like, you know, they've written down £50 worth of stuff, say to them, actually, I can get all of that for you for 10 quid, because it'll be £25 free and 30% off the rest. I don't know how much it is, but just, you know, I can get you that for you for 10 or 15 quid. And I need to do the
parties, just from where I go and sing and play my guitar.
Amazing. That's fantastic.
One of them, the landlady, it's actually the landlady doesn't want the host reward. She doesn't want any free spends, but she lost a baby a little while ago, so she wants it to go to, like, I think it's Tommy's charity.
Right. So what I would do there is do what do we call it? Lucky squares. Get her to fill in squares in advance.
Already done. Okay. Already done. Yeah,
right.
Already done. I think we've almost filled 2.
And then 50% of that goes straight to the charity. The other 50% is to the spend. And then you can buy a raffle prize with £25 free shopping.
I've got so much stock. I was just going to do a gift basket.
That's fine too. No, whatever works for you.
Using up a lot of my stock because I've got so yeah, just doing that. Then they can raffle that off for the charity. So,
Stacey, have you got? I don't know if you're still with us. Have you got anything you'd like to put in?
I've just been. I've literally just taken in a few catalogues at the place that I work.
Brilliant.
And 2 people that I work with have actually shared them out to family and friends, and they've asked me for more catalogues.
Awesome.
So yeah, fingers crossed. But also, I did one of the squares in my group. I struggled, and one of my co-workers that I work with, he actually won it because he brought 5 squares, because he, bless him, he felt sorry and was like, oh, I'll have the last 5.
So I also, when you're really, really new, lucky squares in your groups go really, really well. When the advent calendars come out, they go really, really well. For a lot of people, the rest of the time, just putting it in your group isn't enough. You have to message people and you have to tag people. Or I hardly ever do lucky squares in my group because they tend to languish there. However, if I go to a party, I would always sell out of lucky squares. And when I used to do fates a lot, I would always do lucky squares at fates. And fates are brilliant.
I did it at the market.
Perfect. And one of the people that you should always, it's interesting you saying about, you know, your co-worker who's a man. One of the sorts of people you should always approach is the men, because they are way more likely to buy lots of squares than I don't know, it's an inbuilt gambling thing. Make sure that everybody puts, when I used to do fates, I would get everybody to write their name and their phone number in their square, on the basis that I'd say, well, if I don't fill it today, you know, obviously I need to be able to get in contact with you. You've just got all their data, so now you can put me in a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So yeah,
but because of this lucky mystery box, I actually changed it. Because he was a guy, I said, oh, what I can do is I can turn it into a Valentine's gift box.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, he gave it to his girlfriend and she absolutely loved it, that she now wants a catalogue to order some more things from the range.
That's amazing, Stacey. Do you see how one thing can lead on to another, and it makes you feel so good, doesn't it? When you get a chain reaction like that, you're left feeling, yes, I can do this. and then so another time you'll have like a whole week where you don't make a single sale or anything. You think, oh, this isn't the job for me. But then all you need is one good day like that, and you think, oh, I can totally eat this. It's amazing. Right, I think we're gonna, oh, it is, I was gonna say we're gonna have an early bath, but it's actually 9:05. So we've got one more week to do, which is the level 4 and 5, which we do together because they're both much shorter. So do join me again next week, and we'll cover those things off, and then hopefully there'll be a bit of time for a chat afterwards, like we usually do. So thank you very much. Let anybody who you know that didn't make it tonight know that the recording will be up as soon as I get it converted onto YouTube. Right, thanks everybody. Good night.
Thanks, Kay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Kay.
Bye.